Howdy y'all, doing up sandfly buck tonight. Gonna finish filling up that cork. Pull off a good size hunk for the tail here, although I'm going to separate it and save a little bit for the top. And we're just going to clean this bottom out. I'm not going to stack this. This is it's a type of roe deer that we have here in BC on the island. And it's almost like a rabbit. It's super fluffy and fine. You can see it has some nice guard hairs in it. Just gonna cut the music down a little bit because I'm gonna be talking. So you can see it has some really nice fine guard hairs in it there. But it also has a lot of really fluffy underhair. It's almost like rabbit. It's a really interesting mix between rabbit and deer hair. It's almost like two pelts in one. I bet the underfur would actually make some pretty wicked dubbing. Should try that. I should actually keep some of the underfur and dub it up and see how it goes. It's almost too light to stack because it's like a rabbit. I'm gonna try and gently stack it in this. I've tried it in my hair stacker and it's just doesn't do a lot of any good. So this is a type of old school kind of German Russian hair stacker. Basically just a metal tube. I paid a whole 10 cents for this one. You just put your hair in and just tap. And the benefit to this one is you can see it while you're tapping it. And you can tap just odd sized, or stack odd sized stuff. And it doesn't get everything anywhere close to as even as regular hair stacker, but I mean, you can use it for so many different things that you just couldn't really do in a hair stacker, that it's handy to have one. You could make one. I've made a few out of just pop cans. But that'll give you a much nicer. I got a few that went away from me there when I pulled it out, but overall, compared to my other one, you can see that's much nicer stacked there. So we're going to go with that. The other, I wouldn't say downside, but the other difference between this hair and a regular bucktail, which traditionally this would have been tied with, is the fibers are much shorter. So you're not going to be able to make any streamers out of this. The soft quality of the hair, just like rabbit, makes it a lot more like almost like a mohair or a it still has that wonderful guard hair look that you're looking for, but also soft secondary guard hairs that make it a lot more lifelike. we're just going to cut that down, cut it on a bit of an angle to help taper it right before where the hackle and all that's going to go in. And I'll just lightly bind this down because we're going to be tying in the other body pieces here. Or the body and the rib anyway. Just getting my glasses out. Eyes are getting tired after working for 10 hours here. This is a wonderful vintage floss. It's just awesome, like cocoa brown color, but it's very it doesn't have any UV in it, but it's very flashy for a brown anyway. And I'm excited to try numerous patterns with this stuff because it's just, to me, it's just that awesome kind of translucent buggy color that you get on nymphs and all sorts of other stuff. We're just going to tie that in on my side of the fly and get it into our material clip. I do have a pre-cut for what we're going to be using here, but I'm not 100% sure if that one's going to be long enough because I've tied a few off that already, so we're going to grab a new one. This is an acrylic yarn. It's number 26 for if you're doing brain went blank there. Punch yarn. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the color. I think it's something like sulfur. That looks like a sulfur yellow. Traditionally, this calls for a wool body. We're going to go with the acrylic. It does have a slight fuzz to it, which I think will actually make a nicer, buggier body to it, but I could curl this up, coil it up, and have a much cleaner body. So we're just going to tie it in there. We're going to leave a little bit of room for our head, and then our hackle's going to go here. We'll clean that up before we wrap the hackle. I do have a number of 100% wools that would work just fine in this color range. But the acrylic does stand up a little better. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit here because it's going to fuzz up. The last couple I tied, I hand wrapped, but I really should be using my rotary for this. No reason not to. So we're going to rotary it and see where we go. So we're going to throw a couple half hitches in to stop our line from going all cattywampus. Put that into our bobbin holder. Now the body I'm going to be twisting around in this direction, and then we'll come back and our ribbing will be the opposite direction. Just getting that fairly tight there so we don't get too big of a butt section. Now there's two schools of thought. You can go with this. You can double it up. You could use a lighter thread. You don't have to use black. What's going to happen with this lighter colored Hey, thanks for the sub. Didn't quite see that quick enough. I think it was Jared. Thanks for the sub, Jared. Appreciate that, mate. Hopefully you enjoy. Feel free to say hi in the chat there. Yeah, so there's two schools of thought here for the body, and I'm gonna backstroke, for lack of a better word, backstroke. So I got the whole body covered up there evenly, and what I'm gonna do is when I go backwards, I'm actually gonna double over. So my thread is spaced out, maybe about half a bobbin width, backwards to just before the halfway point, so we want to really cover the first third of the body. And then when I'm going back the other way, we're going to go in between those wraps. So we're going to cover those spaces that we made. And what that's going to do is just give us that slightly thicker thorax area and a little bit thinner on the back there. I'm just going to drop the that looks a little better. Not sure why my camera spiked up on the okay. Wow. Yeah, my camera really spiked up on the, I apologize, I didn't notice that right away. On the exposure, I'd drop it down -19 for the exposure, which is weird because I don't have a lot of light going on. Looks good to me on there, so if it's too dark for you guys now, let me know, I'll adjust it. I think we were a little bit on the bright side there. Might have to reset my camera, because there's no reason for it to be anywhere close to that much exposure. Either way, less about cameras, more about fly time. I'm going to do a few wraps there just to get that clear. Just going to move my bobbin cradle out of the way. You don't need the hackle pliers here. I just threw it on because I was adjusting the exposure on the camera. I didn't want it to unwrap on me. Cut that off. So yeah, I don't know if I would. I probably would have had enough with that piece we started with, but I'm just going to get rid of the butt end and clean that down a little bit, and we'll clean that up in a second here. So, body wraps are going this way, over and under. So this one we're going to want to go under and over. And with the last couple I tied, this floss liked to thin out on me, or flatten out on me a little more than I wanted it to, so I'm just going to twist that up. And that should give us these really beautiful cocoa colored ribbing, just like a sandfly. And yeah, I just realized I got a little bit distracted there when we were talking about the body colors. There's two schools of thought. You can go with the body color you want, and then you can go with the body color you're going to get with all your materials combined once it's wet. This lighter colored yellow, because I used black thread underneath, is going to turn to almost more of like a yellow gray once it gets wet. If you don't want that to happen, you got two options. You can use a lighter colored thread for your base, for the body, or you can just do two passes. Have a slightly thicker body, but then that will help to prevent that from happening. So now I'm just going to go back over, and we want a space roughly about the width of your bobbin. Like that will do. And that's where we're going to be wrapping the hackle on. So all we really want to do here is to just smooth it out so that the wraps for the hackle are going to be on a smooth surface. That'll give us a nicer hackle. Now, before we get to the hackle, getting ahead of myself here, we need to get the bucktail in, hence the name of the fly. And again, they would be traditionally using a full-on regular bucktail for this, but I'm using this roe deer. If I was tying anything bigger, like a size or two up, that half hitch kind of got a little away from me there. I think we're good though. There we go. Okay. So, this part's a two-part. So we're going to go with a slightly lighter, or extremely lighter, white. Just get some of this without making a big mess. I really should comb this one out because it's shedding like no one's business. But I feel like the more I play with it, the less it's going to shed, and more of the shed's going to be gone, and it should be easier to work with after a little bit. Okay, so just like before with the tail, we're going to grab the ends. So we're grabbing all the guard hairs, and we're just going to pull out the fluff. And there's going to be quite a bit of it in this one. And it's fluffy like rabbit underfur, but it has a coarser texture to it. It's really interesting stuff. You can see it looks a lot like bucktail. It's just much smaller and much finer. So I don't need to super stack this. I'm just going to gently stack it just to get a few more of those fibers together. But we want it to be a little bit on the wild side. Most bucktail flies in general, you want to imitate that wing. That's a little bit closer to what we're going for. And this is just the underwing, so we're not trying to wing the whole deal here yet. We want to bring that right back to just before the end of the tail there. And I'm going to clean the rest of that out because that's just going to make a mess. There we go. Let's remeasure that here. Sorry guys, I dropped that for a second. Okay, so we got it in place. I'm just going to tie it in right at the top here. I'm going to use a pinch wrap similar to like I would with a quill wing. Not that you need to, but it'll help me get it placed where I want it without it twisting as much. Excuse me. You can see there we got it right on top. Smack on top, hasn't twisted. There we go. And then on top of that, we're going to tie our darker brown. Has this really lovely kind of chestnut right through the middle. Beautiful color. And same thing as before, we're just going to grab a little chunk. We're just making an overwing, so we don't need it to be anything crazy. So yay much. And again, you can see that under fur is just in there. Now, if I was using actual bucktail, I'd get my little comb out. This stuff is just a little too fine for a comb, and it does separate quite easily, so. Now, I think for an overwing, I think that is actually going to work quite well without stacking it, so we're going to go with that. It's going to go right on top. And I'm just going to do a pinch wrap. Get 3 in there, right on top. I'm going to trim this on an angle back. That'll help us with a nice head. We want to keep that first part, about where my scissors are here, as level as you can. It'll just help you wrap the hackle in. And for the hackle, we're going to use this. Just a it's a nice kind of auburn colored soft rooster. It's almost like a hen hackle, but it definitely has the rooster shine to it and a heavier, much heavier rachis. The sandfly has, for the type of insect it is, it has a much longer to its body proportions legs. So I'm using an oversized hackle here and a slightly softer hackle because they are just going to trim that a little bit off. So you can see there I left the barbs in. That'll help the thread catch. That'll stop it from moving. I'm going to start back here and work my way back towards it and just bind down the rest of that bucktail. I'm using an 8/0 thread, but you're welcome to, or no, sorry, I'm using a 6/0. You could definitely go with an 8/0 with this, especially if you're using more of like a dry fly hackle, something where you don't want to be building up nearly as much bulk. But these guys do kind of have a big gnarly head on them, so I want to have a medium-sized black head at the end. Alright. I got the sitting out at a 90 there. That'll help us wrap it all nice. Just gonna grab the rachis with the pliers here. It's got a little bit of a twist to it that I'm not super fond of, but we'll make it work. go for 3 or 4 separated wraps. So you're not wrapping this like a tight dry fly. Hackle. That one just a hair shorter than I would have liked, but we'll make it work. I would have liked one more wrap there. And just 2 wraps to hold it in. We'll get in there and tie it off. Just gonna do one more here. 2 more. Okay, that'll do. Normally I actually leave my hackle pliers on there. It helps me separate it and cut out the right one, but I took it off. That's okay. We'll get in there with the scissors. There we be. Just a little gentle cut. Okay, we're just going to pull this back. We're not going to quite sweep this back like a wet fly, but I'm just going to make that nice, even, dark head. That's what we want to see. So you got the heavy spent, almost like a spent wing case. With the 2-tone bucktail. The nice deep segmentation with the floss. And those colors will just absolutely pop when sandflies are out. Where'd my whip finish go? There we are. Okay, just gonna throw a whip finish on. Now this is an 8/0 uni thread. Sorry, 6/0 uni thread. I normally tie it with 8/0. There you go. Sandfly bucktail. This was originally tied by sorry, so let me get this on here. There we go. This was originally tied by Milo C. or Cap Godfrey in Spokane in about 1947. And it simulated the big mayfly hatch that they have there and the sandflies around North Idaho lakes. Normally come around June. But it simulates a lot of other similar bugs. Have a lot of action in the water. That'll look nice. You see it's got that nice dark head like the sandflies do. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's the sandfly buck, or bucktail sandfly. You can tie it many different variations. I'd consider this to be, it's a classically tied as a dry fly, but this would be something you'd want to break the surface with and have it just under the surface, because they don't surface hot very well. They will land and get stuck under the surface film. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm on most of the time during the week. Thanks for hanging out with me and enjoying a good tie. Always good to have all of you here.